What I'm going to be building is a 100-inch wheelbase Land Rover Range Rover hybrid. Pete, mate, do not
play with things you don't understand.
Hello, my workshop chums. Welcome to A 4x4 is Born. Now, I want to point out here and now that the fact that I've shaved is very deceiving about my personal state of mind, because me and Les and Phil were here till 3 o'clock in the morning so we could move things on a bit for you, because we know how much you like us to get to the end when we actually start the thing up and drive it out of the workshop. All right? Now, in here, you'll see we have not one, but 2 batteries. It's a bit like a boat, so we have an engine battery and an auxiliary battery, and we will be fitting a special split charging system a little bit later on. I'll show you that later in the series. But for now, I'm finishing off my old door panels. Bit of sound deadening to stick on the back ear like that. That will fit in there like so. It's quite flimsy, this panel, so a little bit of sound deadening will help. It's the kind of stuff you have on the inside of your doors. So in it goes. Yeah. It's funny when you're working on a vehicle like this, you suddenly find yourself all kinds of jobs you never thought you'd have. This was not on the original list, but I think it's definitely worth doing. The other thing you really notice, particularly at 3 o'clock in the morning, is how it's all those little jobs that seem to take forever. It's like I must have spent an hour and a half or 2 hours just clipping pipes in the engine bay. It's not a very interesting job, and but it has to be done. So there we go, that's that. Then we got my panel. Basically the same as before, but just put some of this sticky back foam on the back to help seal it, and just countersink the old holes in there. That will drop on like that. Haven't finished on the doors yet though. I put those panels on the inside so that Pete, mate, doesn't kick a big dent in my doors. But also, I've got to reglaze the remaining window top, which is this bit, detachable top from a Series 3 door. Now, I don't think I ever showed you how bad the original doors were that I was going to steal from my little 90, OK? They were the wind-up windows, very trendy, some would say. I don't particularly like them myself because they don't smack of the kind of old Land Rover thing that I like. But this is a door that we took off. It didn't look too bad until we took the interior panel off, but then things started getting a bit dodgy down here, and this is just knackered. Now, it is rebuildable, and these are very expensive items. If you try and buy replacement new versions of these, you'll part with a lot of cash. So, at some point, we will sit down and repair these, because we all know how good Les is at making brackets and things, don't we, Les?
Yeah, but very slow.
But very, very slow. It takes him days and days and days. So, Pete...
Are we done with this?
No, just stay there a little bit longer. OK, so we're going to put it together. All we've got in terms of the door is the old sliding windows, all right? So there's 2 windows. There's that pane. There's that pane. And there's that pane.
I was going to say that.
Just remember whose show it is.
Yeah,
OK, I do the words, you do the directing. And by the way, can you go and put the little bumperettes on the back? Thanks, Pete.
OK.
It's all a matter of fillets and runners to put these windows in. There's 2 windows. The front one is a fixed window. That gets glued in place. And then it's the rear window that slides to be able to stick your elbow through it. So the first thing is to put the bottom runners in. It's just held in by 3 self-tapping screws. So it just drops in there like that. They've been a little bit damaged, these runners, when they were taken out. It's not a job we did, but we're going to have to sort that out to make sure the window slides properly. Just locate those. Right, OK. Now, plonk the window down. The next thing is to put a load of goo in. Now, this is a sealing window sealer, but it's also a pretty good adhesive as well, which is perfect for this job. Just need a nice steady bead coming all the way around, because you want it to squeeze out a little bit around the frame, so you can then clean it off afterwards. OK, that's that. Then window up again. So what you do now is you get your glass, then the window drops in on the outboard side of that first runner we've put in, between that and the goo that I've laid on the window frame. We drop it in, and you press that in just to squeeze it against the goo. Make sure it's all oozing out round the frame. Excellent. Now we can put the rest of the fillets in, and then drop in the sliding pane, and we're sorted.
Done it, Mark.
And then the finished window just drops in these holes right through the door top. And all we've got to do is make sure that the rubber sits in the right place. 2 nuts is all that holds it on.
It's got a V6 Ford Capri engine in it, which is nice and short, and everything else is standard Land Rover. This vehicle is more of a starter vehicle. If I'd changed the tyres today, it would have been more competitive on the earlier sections. On the last 2 sections, I got through more or less to the finish, so it was not that much of a disadvantage. The only advantage with it is that I don't have to do a lot of maintenance with it. The club has a vast range of events. It goes from the safari racing, which is high-powered V8s and getting a lot more sophisticated, trick suspension and everything like this, right down to even now junior trials where 14-year-olds are allowed. I've been involved with the All-Wheel Drive Club for now about 10 years. Previously to this, I was actually clerk of the course for the last 2 years on the Super Modifieds. It's a form of motorsport which is not expensive. You can buy the bits cheap enough to put on vehicles and you can go out and you can have a day's fun. I have never been of the ultra-competitive type, but it's just, they're a great crowd here and it's just good fun.
Yes, indeed. The first time I've ever had a car seat with my name on. Pete Mate's got one as well, and he's very proud of having a seat with his name on too. Anyway, these 2 seats are obviously race-style seats. You could put standard seats in this, but we decided to go kind of a bit racy with it because of the fact that we want to go off-road, and we might go to some fairly unusual places and at unusual angles and so forth. So these are FIA approved internationally race seats, also MSA, Motorsport Association in the UK, approved. They're a tubular steel frame construction. It's padded and sprung all the way around, so it supports you brilliantly, and it will take a 5-point harness, so 2 through here, 2 through here, and then 1 up between your legs through there, which is very important to stop you submarining if you had a head-on impact where you kind of disappear underneath the seat belts and forward. Very light seat as well, which is really, really good. Fixing them in is dead straightforward. We have the seat box already, which is one of the main parts of the bodywork in the vehicle, and all we've cut out is a piece of 5-bar tread plate. The seat runners, it's a fully adjustable back and forward seat, just bolts to the tread plate with 4 bolts and some spacers. These little spacers slot in underneath the runners. The only downside we have, having a truck cab setup with this project vehicle, is the fact that we're not going to get as much aft movement in the seat as we would if it was another type of vehicle, which means that I'm not going to be able to push my seat as far back as I might like, but then I'm not very long-legged, so I should be okay. Right. Just need to be a bit careful because the edges of this checker plate, or tread plate, are pretty sharp and they'll take all my paint off. So it slots in back first. Now I've made it so it's pretty tight to this side with these little wings on here, so that I've got the maximum space possible in between for a cubby box, which can be a secure box in the centre. So just shuffle my way a bit, and then it just bolts down in 4 places. That's one of the original fixings. But the other 2, the other side, we've had to drill holes through the bulkhead, and then we'll put some plates underneath to bolt it in. But if we just put them in place for now, Pete, if you can do that, then I can put the seat back and see if there's enough leg room. That goes back, that's as far back as it'll go.
Come and join me.
Come and join me. Ooh, last time I sat in a seat like this, I was racing a car around a circuit. Ooh, that's very comfortable. Very, very comfortable.
Very supportive on the back, isn't it?
Yeah, leg room's a bit confined, but then Land Rovers are like this. I mean, it's not much better when you've got normal seats in, to be honest, in a truck cab. But we do need a very small wheel, really, which is a good job we've got power steering. Actually, Who needs a steering wheel? We'll just put a set of mole grips on. And I can just steer it like
I'll
that.
just close the door, see if it cuts the noise out.
Don't.
Don't close the door?
No, because the door might damage.
Fall off.
No, because it might damage because of the paint, but we've got to adjust it. He just wants to try everything.
Where's the windscreen wipers? Can't we get those going?
Well, funnily enough, normally you find them on the outside of the windscreen. Next job is to sort out the suspension geometry and the wheel alignment and so forth. So my mate Ian's putting all the technical gear on the wheel so we can do that. Meanwhile, I am trying to add all the bits that I couldn't put on before because I didn't have them, such as things like this, which are heater hoses. And also, take a look at this. I've put on the headers and the Y pipes that have come back from ceramic coating. They look absolutely brilliant. If they perform as well as they look, we're in for a big treat. We're set up for suspension geometry and wheel alignment and all that kind of malarkey. Now, I've never done this before, but my mate Ian's brought along the kit, as I said, and sorted it out for me so that I can have a go, all right? So the first thing you've got to do is find your icon on here. So we click that. Hey! 1981, 1995, a Land Rover Range Rover Classic. That's the database we've now selected. And the computer will basically tell us what to do on the vehicle. So we've got the rear axle jacked up at the moment, and then these sensors on the wheels, and we've got to go around wheel by wheel, first of all checking a thing called run out. And run out is all about when you rotate the wheel to see if there's any movement of the wheel like that, so kind of wobble if you like. And that could be because you've got a damaged wheel, or it could be because this apparatus hasn't been put on the wheel correctly. So you kind of need to set up the computer first to make sure it's happy with the run out. So every wheel has got the same kit on it, which is this cradle with 3 pickup points, 1, 2 and 3 there. And the centre shaft here should be in line with the axle. So a straight line through there and through the centre of the axle. On here, you've got a little bubble so you can check that the whole setup is level in terms of this machine, which has the infrared transmitter and sensor that creates a box effectively around the vehicle by communicating with the other sensors around. So you've got this infrared box, and then the computer can tell where every wheel is in space within that box. And that's how it calculates all the parameters that we're trying to look at. So to start with, we have to do the run out. First job is to rotate the wheel so that I know exactly where I'm starting from, because I'm going to rotate it again in a minute for the computer to sense. So that's about that. Then I need to set up the infrared sensor receiver so that that is completely level with the bubble on top. There, like that. And then all I have to do is press this button here, but very gently without joggling everything. So that means now, that with that in that position, I can then loosen this off, rotate the wheel through 180 degrees until this point is at the top, so I know I've gone 180 degrees. Doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. To there. Lock up the bobble so that I know it's all level again, like that. And then gently press the button a second time. And if it all comes up green, as it has, so the computer's happy with that. The run out is acceptable, so I can just loosen off the clamp, and then I've got to do each wheel in turn, exactly the same procedure. Right, I've got 4 greens in terms of run out, so I can move on to the next stage, and the computer gives you all the prompts of exactly what you need to do. I need to put in now 4 of these turning plates under the wheels. You then lower the Land Rover onto them, and this means that when you're adjusting any of the parameters and the geometry, it allows the wheels to move in any direction because they can basically slip and slide in relation to each other. So that slides under there like that. I then need to put one of these turning plates under each wheel, lower the vehicle down onto them, give it a joggle to settle the suspension, then put a brake pedal depressing machine which holds the brake on before I can then go on and do the other test that the computer wants me to do, which includes doing a caster swing. Oh, that feels good. Welcome back to my 4x4 off-road driving school at the Land Rover Experience Chilterns. Now, today we're going to be learning about how to drive across a side slope. It's something you want to absolutely avoid unless a dire emergency. And the reason is, you see, human beings kind of sort themselves out on slopes because they stand like this and walk like so. But of course, a Land Rover can do that to a degree, but then it all kind of goes like this. Pete?
Yep. All right.
And the Land Rover's got to cope with this, you see, and the problem is, if you start steering up the hill, it all goes pear-shaped, like that. OK, so what is the technique for driving sideways across a slope?
Very slowly. Make sure your passengers are out. People wobble about, so do it on your own. It doesn't hurt for people to be standing completely clear and walking, say, 100 yards. Do it on your own, and if anything goes wrong, you must turn down, as you already said. If you turn up, that is what puts you over. Hopefully you've got an escape route. Down is a safe place for you, not onto the motorway, as you said.
And yet your natural reaction would be presumably
to steer up.
To steer up
yeah,
the hill.
because if you're on one side, you really want to get your head upright, your brain level, and so it's a natural to steer up.
OK. So this doesn't look that severe. It looks like a bit of a, you know, a bit of a bump in a field, frankly. But this is quite nasty, is it?
It's a training slope, but I think when you drive it, you'll realise that you wouldn't want too much more to be safe.
OK.
And you want to be taking it very slowly, because if you hit bumps fast, you can bounce things over.
OK. Let's have a go.
OK, right.
So keeping high on that side.
Keeping high on that side, just as you are, which is excellent.
So this bit is not too bad when you come across here. It starts to feel a bit steeper now. You do naturally want to steer up there, don't you? It's all a bit soggy, Keith. That would drown your average car, wouldn't it?
It would do, certainly.
Completely. You'd get very wet and you'd end up stopped in the middle of it.
Definitely.
OK.
That is your recommended, very roughly, your recommended fording depth to the top of the rim.
OK.
Not to the top of the tyre.
OK.
You don't want to get water in there. There's your air inlet. If you ingest water into your engine, it's goodbye engine very quickly.
OK.
So keep it at the recommended level, or lower if possible.
So what's all this bow wave business all about then?
Well, if you go into water, and as you go in deeper, if you push water and it hits the front here, the bumper, the radiator, it'll pile up. It'll be like a bow wave. And then it'll do a curve down here, and you'll get a false low just behind it. By getting that false low, you can probably keep 6 inches lower water level around the engine bay than the actual level of the water. So once you've gone in, created your bow wave, keep up with it, don't overrun it, don't let it run away from you, and don't go fast. If you've got splashing over the bonnet, you're going too fast. Just create it, slowly going in and pushing on power, and you will get a full slow, and it'll help you.
Right, let's do it.
Right. OK, I'll go around the back way.
Pete, can you walk in front of us?
Yep.
Thanks very much. Just to make sure there's any, you know, deeper holes or anything, I don't want to drive into them.
OK, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Probably in a situation like this to go into second gear.
OK, so before you enter?
Yeah, before you enter.
OK, so in we go.
In you go. Right. In gently and just increase your speed as you go in deeper. Just gently. And we're going to drop down in a minute. Good. Push that weight of water. Good. Great. Bow weight. Keep up with it. Absolutely perfect.
Running away with me.
Lovely. Very nice too. Excellent.
Oh, that feels good. That's great, isn't it? So, after all that tomfoolery with the technical kit on the vehicle, this is the data we've harvested. It's split between the front axle and the rear axle. The front axle is the top half of the screen, the rear axle is the bottom half. Take the front axle first. The things it's measured for us are camber, caster, toe, and a thing called SAI, which is steering axis inclination. If you explain those individually, they are difficult things to explain these, I have to say. So I've come up with my little model, OK? This is an axle, wheel on either end, OK? We're travelling in this direction, so this is the front axle. If we go for camber first, camber is when the wheels do either that, and they move in that plane to go in like that. That's positive camber, that's zero camber, and that's negative camber, OK? Next one on the list is caster. Well, caster you kind of need to look at from the side, because if that's the axle like that, with caster, if you rotate the wheels like that, so the axle effectively rotates like that as well, so you've got this angle through the wheel there. Going that way, it's negative caster, which is what you get on a shopping trolley at a supermarket. If it comes back the other way, you have positive caster. OK, and the final one on there of the main ones is toe. Well, that's easy. If you look at the front of the vehicle like that, that's toe in, that's toe out. OK, and toe in is a positive figure because you could end up with lines across here making a cross, and a cross is positive. OK, I hope that helped. SAI, steering axis inclination, is a kind of mathematical thing that's worked out from the camber and the caster, and I can't really explain any more than that because my brain won't handle that. But basically, in terms of the results, it's all pretty good news. On the front, camber and caster are OK, but the toe is not good, so that needs a little bit of adjustment, which I'll do in a second. On the back, camber and toe are OK, and thrust line is absolutely perfect. And thrust line is basically the centre line of the rear axle and the centre line of the front axle follow in exactly the same path. So the rear wheels and front wheels are exactly parallel, so you're not having any crabbing going on. And that thrust line is basically adjusted by our panhard rod across the front, which has got the rose joint on the end. So that's all pretty good. The only thing we need to do is the toe in, toe out on the front. So to adjust the toe in, toe out on the front axle, you have to play around with this adjuster here on the track rod. The track rod runs from one hub to the other right across the vehicle and has got a ball joint on either end. I've undone both the clamp bolts on this adjuster, and then all you need to do is get a big piece of steel scissors. It makes a bit of a mess of the adjuster, this, I have to say, but you can always have a bit of paint afterwards, and then you just grip it and turn it. And as it turns on the threads to either effectively lengthen the shaft or shorten it. Or the rod, I should say. I can actually see the computer from here, so I need to get a smaller number, so I need to rotate it towards me. OK, and we just got to keep going until we get down to 0 total and 0 on both wheels. Right, we're down to 0.1. Right, here we go. Tell me if it gets to 0.
It's coming, and it's there!
Yes! Yay! Hooray! So that's it for now. We are so nearly there, but it is a mad dash to the finish. We'll see you next time. Say goodbye, Pete. Pete? Pete? Oh, bless him. It's the absolute finishing touches. This is so much fun, I can't tell you.